Good morning, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. And I see that everyone's here today, which is good. And moved by Member Green, second by Member Quinn. Be it resolved that Committee of Adjustment agenda dated March the 8th, 2021 be adopted. All those in favor? And that's carried. And are there any declarations of interest? Amen. Okay. Moved by Member Creaser, second by Member Quinn. Be it resolved that the minutes dated February the 8th, 2021 be adopted and approved as circulated. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's carried. Andrea, would you like to?
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It's required that I make a few statements and then I will explain the procedures of the hearing. This electronic hearing is being held in accordance with Section 238 of the Municipal Act 2001 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The members of the Committee of Adjustment present are Chair Alan Edwards, members Joe Quinn, Lisa Groga Green, Rob Bosenworth, and Sharon Creaser, and I can confirm we have a quorum. The members of Township staff present are Derek Hammond, CAO, David Pink, Director of Development Services and Environmental Sustainability, Bryce Sharp, Manager of Planning, Caitlin Walker, Planner 1, Sam Soya, Planner 2, Jane Sieber, Planning Services Technician, Lauren Cochran, Planning Clerk, myself, Andrea Glazier, Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment. Public input on this March 8th, 2020 agenda was invited at planning@muskokalakes.ca. It should be noted the motions have been pre-populated with random movers and seconders to expedite the meeting. When it is time to vote, members shall physically raise their hand until the chair has confirmed the vote. If the vote is unclear, a verbal vote shall be recorded, but this is not considered a recorded vote. Now I will explain the hearing of the process of the hearing. The planner will provide an explanation and purpose of the application, the date notice was circulated, and will present any submissions received. The planner will also provide the planning staff's comments. Committee will then hear from the applicant or the applicant's agent if they wish to add any information. Please provide your name, mailing address, and postal code for our records. Committee will hear from those in support of the application and those in opposition to the application. Again, please provide your name, mailing address, and postal code for our records. Committee will then hear the applicant or the applicant's agent respond to any questions or concerns raised. Committee will then have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant or staff. Committee will debate the application and make a decision based on the information presented at the hearing. It must be noted the chair has a vote on each application and can participate in the discussion. There is a 20-day appeal period from the date of the decision. In the case of a minor variance application, the building permit is not available until after the appeal period and no appeals are received. When you're present at the hearing, please provide us your name and mailing address. Any presentation is limited to 5 minutes unless otherwise permitted by the committee. Please note the resolutions are automatically written in the positive to assist in completing decisions. This does not in any way mean an application is going to be approved. And just one last thing, please take down the pink sign that was posted advertising this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrea. And the first application is B 3120 ML. Mr. Soya.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Chair Edwards. Today's first application to be heard is consent application B 3120 ML in the name of Bowie. A civic address has not been yet assigned to this subject property. The lands are located at part of Lot 6, Concession 3 in the former township of Wood. The property is frontage at the north end of the property on Marina Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketch on page 33 of the agenda package. Unfortunately, due to the size of the property and the scaled down version of the sketch, not all the information on the sketch is clearly readable. However, the lot dimensions are outlined in the report, and I'll also provide some additional details. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicants propose to create one severed lot and one retained lot. I should note that since the time the staff report was finalized, we've received accurate straight line frontage measurements for both the proposed severed and retained lots from an Ontario land surveyor, and these frontages are slightly different than those stated in the report. The proposed severed lot, being the easterly lot shown in the sketch, has an approximate area of 31.2 acres and a straight line frontage on Marina Road of 476 feet. The proposed retained lot, being the westerly lot shown in the sketch, has an approximate area of 37.4 acres and a straight line frontage on Marina Road of 406 feet. Both lots are zoned rural RU2 and environmental protection EP1. The EP1 zone coincides with the boundaries of a wetland located on the property, and both the proposed severed and retained lots exceed the zoning bylaws minimum frontage and area requirements, and both are vacant and in a natural and forested state. Although no specific development plan has been submitted, future residential development is proposed. Notice of this public meeting under the Planning Act was circulated 18 days in advance, and no public comments have been received to date. Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, does not have any Ontario Building Code concerns, and the township's Public Works Department has also indicated that they do not have any concerns. I've prepared a detailed planning report for committee's consideration, and if committee is considering approval of the application, staff have recommended standard conditions of consent requiring the registration of the required reference plan, confirmation that the township is satisfied that both lots can be adequately serviced with private on-site septic systems, and that cash in lieu of parkland be dedicated to the township in the amount of 5% of the vacant lot's assessed value or the entire lands, whichever is less. Staff have also recommended that both the severed and retained lots be made subject to site plan control, primarily to ensure development will be sufficiently set back from the wetland that exists on these lands, and to ensure vegetation will be retained on areas of steep slope. And I have no further comments at this time, but would be happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sawyer. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this?
Yeah, the applicant's here. I'll let him in.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. No, I don't have any further comment at this time.
Okay. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this application or in opposition to this application? No, seeing none. Other questions from the members? Yes, Mr. Bosenberg.
Just a clarification on it said if the committee is considering approval of the application, staff recommend the severed and retained lots have increased setback, I think was said. Is that correct? Or was it just to recommend a site plan?
Yes, Mr. Sawyer.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, one of the recommendations is that the property be subject to site plan control. There is a wetland. As if you refer to figure 1, you can see it quite clearly on the air photo, and that would enable us to ensure that there's an appropriate setback to that wetland when those lots are developed.
Thank you. No further questions.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Member Green.
I thought there was a part where it's written committee may wish to consider imposing an increased front yard setback on the severed lot to ensure that future development on this lot is oriented away from Marina Road. I feel like, is that to ensure that people from Lake Muskoka can't see this potential building at the top of the slope? Is that the idea? And is it possible that site plan control then would control for that?
Yes. Mr. Sharp, would you like to comment?
Thank you, Chair Edwards, and through you, in response to Member Grogan Green's question. Maybe just to provide a bit of clarity, yes, we had indicated that one potential option was to provide for an increased setback. I think, however, in this case, it's important to recognize the fact that the property as it exists today is a building lot, and there would be nothing preventing the owner from applying for a building permit for a dwelling on the property, including over the high point of land. I think staff had suggested that perhaps an increased setback could be imposed on the severed lot, recognizing the fact, as I've indicated, that the property as it exists today is a building lot. Part of the reason why we had indicated the possibility of a increased setback on the severed lot is because of the zoning of the property and its location in proximity to Lake Muskoka, and specific policies in the township's official plan that speak to the rural waterfront interface. In this case, staff didn't recommend the increased setback, given the fact that the severed lot is quite a distance from the lake. It doesn't appear to contain as steep of slopes as the retained lot. And I would also indicate that the lots separating the subject property from Lake Muskoka already contain 2 tiers of development, and the second tier of lots is zoned open space OS3. So I think, out of an abundance of caution, staff had indicated that the possibility of an increased setback was something that committee could impose, but staff didn't recommend it rather. Thank you.
Okay, does that answer your question? Any other questions? And I'll read the resolution. Moved by Member Bosworth, second by Member Creaser. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B 3120 ML Route, provided the following conditions are fulfilled. 1, a registrable description deed of the severed lot be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer along with a registered copy of the reference plan. 2, confirmation that the township is satisfied with the proposed severed and retained lots can adequately service by individual on-site septic systems. 3, that the severed and retained lots are made subject to site plan control. 4, that cash in lieu of parkland be dedicated to the township in the amount of 5% of the assessed value of the newly created vacant lot, or the entire land, whichever is less. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Okay, and need the cause and effect. Somebody?
It meets definition of a building lot, exceeds it.
Okay. And there was no objection from neighbors, and it's getting site plan control. Thank you.
Also say it was a very good staff report, very detailed.
Yes. Okay, thank you. And the next application is A 3520 MacGillivray. And that is Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Chair
Good morning.
Edwards. Good morning. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A35-20 in the name of MacGillivray. The subject property is known municipally as 2867 Muskoka Road 118 West, Unit 4. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 46 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicant proposes to construct a new sleeping cabin and to replace their existing dock with a new dock. The relief is requested from the minimum lot frontage requirements of 100 feet for an existing lot of record. The subject property has 63 feet of lot frontage. The variance requested is 37 feet. The proposed sleeping cabin will be located 25 feet from an exterior side yard. The required setback is 30 feet. The variance requested is 5 feet. The proposed dock is to be 21.5 feet from the unopened road allowance. The required setback is 25 feet. The variance requested is 3.5 feet. The proposed dock is to be set back 0.3 feet from the easterly side lot line projection. The required setback is 15 feet. The variance requested is 14.7 feet. The proposed dock is to be set back 27 feet from the westerly side lot projection. The required setback is 30 feet. The variance requested is 3 feet. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 11 days in advance and 3 submissions have been received to date. The first submission is by Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official. The Development Services Department has no objections. The second submission is by Tim Sopko, the Township's Public Works Technician. The Public Works Department has commented that the pump house, which is located on the road allowance, should be relocated to private property or shall have a license agreement in place for the encroachment. The third submission is by Ken Murray, a neighboring property owner to the north. The submission is as follows. I am personally in support of this variance as amended and am confident that it will be consistent with the local environment now and in the future. Thank you for offering the opportunity for input. Respectfully submitted, Ken Murray. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration. If committee is considering approval, staff recommend the following condition: that the existing pump house be relocated to private property or a license agreement be entered into for addressing the encroachment. Staff have no further comments at this time, and I'm happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Walker. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this?
Yeah, the applicant Jane is here.
Okay.
Put her in.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. We really don't have anything further to add. I have more of a question in that our pump house has been on the road allowance that was done by my father 65 years ago. And I'm wondering why this is coming up at this time now. Could you explain that perhaps a bit to me, please?
Yes, I'll have the manager explain that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Edwards, and thank you for your question. I think in this case, given that you've submitted a minor variance application and we, as part of that application, an updated survey has been prepared, providing us with new information about the pump house being located on the road allowance. That's why it's being coming up at this time. So I do not think that we were previously aware of the pump house, but we are now. And the recommendation of the Public Works Department is for that that structure to be dealt with.
I
Thank
see.
you.
And then I'm to go directly to them to negotiate that. Is that correct, Bryce? Hello?
Yes, so essentially what the condition will require is for the pump house to be relocated onto your property in compliance with the zoning bylaw, or for a license of occupation to be entered into. So we can discuss the options after the hearing. Of course, if committee approves the application and imposes the condition, Certainly happy to have that conversation afterwards.
Okay, that's great. Wonderful. Well, then I have no other further comments. We're very happy that our neighbor Ken Murray has made his submission, and we look forward to your approval now of this current site plan.
Thank you very much. And is there anyone else wishing to speak on this? No, no one else? Are there questions from the members? No questions? I just would add that if you leave it on the road allowance, I believe the licensing agreement's about $600 a year.
Okay.
So just so that you know.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Moved by member Creaser, second by member Green. Be it resolved that application A 3520 amended MacGillivray to permit the construction of a sleeping cabin and a reconstruction of a dock with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit a new sleeping cabin and enlarged dock on an undersized lot. 2, to permit a sleeping cabin to be 25 feet from the exterior lot line. 3, to permit a 21.5 feet from an unopened road allowance. 4, to permit a dock to be 0.3 feet from the easterly side lot line. And 4, to permit a dock to be 27 feet from the westerly side lot line. These variants are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. It's hereby subject to the following condition. 1, that the existing pump house be relocated to private property or a license agreement be entered into addressing the encroachment. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried.
Thank you very much.
Okay. The reasons? Yes,
Neighbor support,
good.
improvement from existing situation, and improvement from the previous application.
Good, thank you very much. And the next application is A 4720 amended, Davey and that Barretto. And that'll be Mr. Sawyer.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 4720 in the name of Davey and Barretto. The subject property is known municipally as 1035 Lakeview Drive. I would direct the committee's attention to the submitted site plans beginning on page 70 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. As committee may recall, this application was adjourned at the Committee of Adjustment hearing on December 14th, 2020. At the time, the application involved several additional variances to permit a second-story addition to the existing dwelling, a second-story sun deck, and associated stairs. The application was adjourned to provide the applicant with an opportunity to address concerns from neighbors, also to reduce the number of variances and to submit an elevation drawing and revised site plan. The application has now been amended to not the intent of the application today is to recognize 2 as-built structures, one being a wood rack and the other being a shed. And the applicants are also proposing an addition to an existing dock. Please note that the application involves 2 separate parcels, a waterfront lot and a back lot, created through a natural severance as a result of the intersecting municipal road. The waterfront lot fronts on Skeleton Lake and contains the as-built wood rack and the dock, and the back lot fronting on Lakeview Drive contains the as-built shed. Variances are requested to permit the as-built wood rack to remain on the property, to be a building lot. At least 100 feet of lot frontage and at least 15,000 square feet of lot area are required, as the property containing the wood rack has a frontage of only 61.8 feet and a size of only 7,528 square feet. Relief from the minimum lot requirements has been requested to permit the wood rack to remain on the undersized lot. In addition, setbacks of 66 feet from the high water mark and 15 feet from an interior side yard lot line are required. As the wood rack is located 36 feet from the high water mark and 1 foot from the northerly side lot line, a variance of 30 feet to the minimum front yard setback and a variance of 14 feet to the side lot line are requested. Variances are also requested to permit a 96 square foot addition to an existing dock, as the application is to be located 6.5 feet. As the addition is to be located 6.5 feet from the southerly side lot line projection, a variance of 8.5 feet is requested. Skeleton Lake is a Category 2 lake where a maximum dock width of 15% or 50 feet, whichever is less, would be permitted on this property. As the lot has 61.8 feet of lot frontage, the maximum permitted dock width is 9.3 feet. As the proposed addition will increase the width of the dock to 10 feet, a variance of 0.7 feet is requested. Variances to permit the as-built shed on the back lot are also requested. Similarly to the waterfront lot, to qualify as a building lot, the back lot requires 100 feet of frontage and at least 15,000 square feet of lot area. As the back lot has 43.9 feet of frontage on Lakeview Road, and 5,644 square feet of lot area, relief from the minimum lot requirements has been requested to permit the shed to remain on the undersized lot. The township's comprehensive zoning bylaw also requires a main use to be established on a lot prior to the establishment of an accessory use. As the as-built shed was constructed on the back lot prior to a main use, relief from the sequence of construction requirements is also requested. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 11 days in advance and 5 submissions have been received to date. The first submission is by Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official. Mr. Snyder does not have any Ontario Building Code concerns. The second submission is by the township's Public Works Department. The department also has no concerns. After the application was adjourned in November of last year, but before the amended application was circulated, a letter of support was submitted by Eric Alistvy. I hope I'm pronouncing that name okay. A property owner located further north along Lakeview Road. The letter was in support of the application, although only portions of it relate to the amended application. It included a historic account explaining that the properties in this area are part of a legacy waterfront community, all with small lot sizes and frontages, and that the applicant's property should be allowed to be updated appropriately. So the letter was in support. He also stated that the as-built shed is well set back from the road and has been neatly finished. The fourth submission is by Silvana Bezina and Alex Tarski, owners of the adjacent property directly to the south. The submission reads as follows. We are aware of the proposed variances Jamie, Davey, and Cheryl Barretto are requesting. We live right next door, easterly side, and this will affect us significantly more than any of the other neighbors. We do not support the widening of the dock in its present location for the reasons listed below. However, if the dock is moved over to the required side yard setback of 15 feet from the property line, we will agree. What is the purpose of widening the dock to where it will be 10 feet by 20 feet at the end? There's currently ample space to dock the boat or go swimming. Is this addition for a patio area on the water? Official plan policy B13.6 discourages large docks used as sun decks over water. Furthermore, widening a 24-foot section of the dock from 6 feet to 10 feet is significant, not modest, especially given the proximity, 6 inches of the existing dock to our property line. It is already an unfortunate, congested, and compromised situation with their dock being 6 inches from our property line. 2 pictures have been included, been attached from our deck in the summer. Why add to it? Section B of the official plan, item 5.14 says shoreline structures are to allow for boats, etc., while maintaining reasonable views and separation for privacy between neighboring properties. This is not the case with the dock in its current location. Moving the dock over 15 feet will allow them to have the dock size they are requesting and give us reasonable views and separation for privacy and noise between our properties. As the dock currently sits 6 inches from our property line, it results in no privacy or any buffer whatsoever. The winter pictures that the Township of Muskoka Lake staff provided does not give an accurate representation of what the dock and surrounding area looks like in the summer with all the boats and watercrafts. We have owned our home in Muskoka for the past 15 years. Alex is retired and lives there all summer long. Sylvana will retire in the next few years, and this will become our permanent residence at that time. Thank you for our understanding, or for your understanding. And there was 2 photos submitted, and I believe we're able to screen share those. And I don't think I'm the one that does the screen sharing. If our secretary treasurer might be able to do it, I'm not entirely sure how that will
Yeah,
work.
we're working on that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Working?
Yep. Mhm.
So this is image 1 of 2. And yeah, the location where the dock is to be, the addition to the dock is in the location of where the boat is parked at the dock there.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Sawyer. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Yeah, there is a, the 5th submission is by Andrea Bott, owner of the adjacent property directly to the north. The submission reads as follows. We are Andrea and Brian Bott at 1033 Lakeview Drive, immediate neighbor on the west side of 1035 Lakeview Road. We had submitted a letter December 13th, 2020 for the purpose of the initial Committee of Adjustment meeting that was held December 14th, 2020. We would like our original letter to be placed on the above noted amended file. We would like to provide some update to our comments regarding the 2 variance requests pertaining to the dock widening. Widening of this dock would serve no purpose or advantage to boat docking. The existing dock appears wide enough for swimming and lake access. As you know, our dwellings are close together and the neighborhood is already very congested. The worst congestion appears to be between 1035 and 1037 Lakeview Road. Both the dwelling and the dock of 1035, that's the subject lands here today, sit only inches away from the property line of 1037, with 1035 enjoying the larger of the 2 properties. This is a terribly unfortunate situation to begin with. Allowing dock width expansion at 1035 will only add to the existing congestion. Increased congestion brings about negative consequences such as reduced privacy, increased noise, and reduced views, to name a few. There's nothing positive to be gained from the current request for dock expansion and continued violation of side yard setbacks. Thank you for considering our thoughts regarding these matters. And Mrs. Bott also referred to her previous letter that was submitted in November, and sections of that letter which relate to the amended application reiterate the concerns related to the proposed dock addition and the as-built shed. And the letter explained that their understanding was that the as-built shed was to be removed. I've prepared a detailed planning report for committee's consideration. If committee is considering approval of the application, staff recommend that a site plan agreement be entered into along with securities for plantings in the front yard area, and that the roof of the as-built woodshed be removed as intended, which will reduce its height and visibility. And I have no further comments at this time, but would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sawyer. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in support of this application?
Yeah, there's the agent and the owners.
Okay.
Let them both in, or-
You can let them in. Mhm. Thank you.
Good morning, committee. My name is Sabas Faradas of Plan Muskoka. I'm here this morning representing the applicants as their agent and professional planner on this matter. I believe they're being brought in. Yep, they have been being brought in as well. So the applicants themselves are available for questions, and I think you're going to hear from them a little bit as well regarding this this dock issue. So just to provide a little bit of history, as the committee probably already knows, this application, as staff had mentioned, was brought forward in a different form in front of the committee, where it was deferred. And there were some concerns from staff about elements of the application and whether or not they were minor or not. This application has been amended to essentially remove the proposal for the second story addition on the dwelling. And this minor variance application now deals with simply the shed, the wood rack, and the dock proposal as well. So just to make it clear, the second story addition is no longer part of this application. I've read the staff report. I prepared a planning justification letter as well, and we both sort of came to the same conclusion: is that this application meets the 4 tests of a minor variance. Speaking with the applicants, they have no concerns with entering into a site plan agreement as staff has recommended, and they have already had agreed to remove the roof of the wood rack off as recommended by staff as well. So all the recommendations made by staff are willingly entered into or agreed to by the applicants. So looking at the 3 structures, I'll go to the dock last, since it'll be the one that we probably settle on a little bit more. But from when I visited the property, this area, first of all, of Muskoka Lakes is quite unique. There are quite a few small lot sizes all congested into one area. There's a lot of structures that are located in a legal non-compliant fashion in terms of setbacks from their side lot lines, in terms of setbacks from the rear lot lines. The lots on the other side of Lakeview Road all have, not all, but a lot of them have accessory structures there as well, similar to what the existing woodshed already exists as. So in observing that, it did not look like the wood rack, or the wood shed was actually out of character, I guess you could say, in the surrounding area. What was evident when looking at it is that the main concern here is the setback from the road itself. The building itself was located, a fair distance from the actual traveled part of the road. I know the setback is taken from the road allowance itself, but in terms of from its traveled portion, it was set back quite a bit. And directly behind the wood shed, there is a steeper slope, and it's this building is pushed right up against the base of that slope. To increase that setback on that building to allow for it to meet the front yard setback of that back lot would mean site disturbance behind it in the way of other, depending on the type of material, excavating away a hill or blasting, and it just doesn't seem to make sense in terms of the way that the building looks. It's well finished. It meets the side yard setbacks. It appears aesthetically pleasing, and it seems to be in character with the area. So I was able to conclude that I believe it met the 4 tests of a minor variance. The wood rack is a fairly minor structure. It's much like a pile of wood, essentially, with a roof on it. They've agreed to take the roof off of it, and I don't see any issue in leaving it where it is. Yes, it is within the front yard setback of the shoreline lot, but other minor accessory structures are permitted by the official plan to be in that location. A wood rack is not one as of right that is permitted, but it does sort of meet the intent of the official plan, and I felt that it met all 4 tests of minor variance as well. In terms of the dock itself, so it is unfortunate that the dock is located on cribs that are directly adjacent to the side lot line extension between this property and the property to the south. The expansion that's proposed it's expanding as far away, I guess you could say, from that adjacent neighborhood to the east or to the south as possible. It's just unfortunate that it's located where it is to begin with. It's not uncommon to see docks in this area to be legal non-complying structures that don't meet the side yard setbacks. Whenever you have narrow lots and you try to apply modern side yard setbacks to them, which in this case is 15 feet on a 60-foot or 50-foot lot, that eats up quite a bit of the frontage, and more than likely you'll see docks that are having issues meeting that side yard setback requirement. So this addition is basically going on the side of the dock that's opposite of that neighbor and expanding towards the center of the property. The need for it, from what I understand and what I've been told by the applicants, is to allow for dockage along the sort of the far end of the dock, not the side of it, but the end of it, for coming and going in a safe manner. I'll let them speak a little bit more to that, since it's being brought up as the neighbor as an issue. Docks themselves don't normally affect views as much as, let's say, boathouses or boat ports. And the expansion of this dock, to me, did not really exaggerate the existing situation. I understand it does not meet the side yard setback requirement, but the removal of this dock, the removal of the cribs that it sits on to shift it over, 10 feet, I don't feel the difference between the two situations would be dramatic. And because it's only a dock and it's a low profile structure, I felt that it met the 4 tests of a minor variance. In terms of the actual width itself, I know it's been questioned why they require that width, but just to make it clear, as Sam had already mentioned, the variance for the width itself is 0.7 feet. So it's actually fairly close to complying to the bylaws normal width requirements for a dock on this property. The only reason why there is that slight variance required is just it makes it an even 10 feet, which makes it simple for construction purposes and to construct it at 10 feet wide rather than 9.3 feet wide. So if it's okay, I guess for conclusion, from my statement, from my point of view, this application meets the 4 tests of a minor variance, and I agree with staff's recommendation that it does. Just to reiterate, the applicants will enter into a site plan agreement and remove the roof of the wood rack to address those 2 recommendations made by staff. And I think I'll just pass it over now to Jamie Davey to speak a little bit more about the dock issue and the need for it as it's being raised by the neighbors to the south and the north. Thank you.
We're not getting any addresses for these people?
Oh, sorry. Can I have your address, please?
Sure. It's P.O. Box 5384, Huntsville, Ontario, P1H 2K7. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hello, this is Barretto and Jamie Davey from 1035 Lakeview Road, Utterson, POB 10. Can everyone hear me okay before I keep going?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I just want to address, I think, the dock issue. As Savas was pointing out, where the addition is away from the neighboring property, right? Like, we're not going out, we're not going towards them, we're actually going as far away from them as we possibly could. It allows us to stop a boat at the end. I mean, in the picture they showed, you saw that there's a wave runner on the other side. That's not ours. Like, so they park, right on the other side of our dock, blocking access to one side of our dock. So really what it would give us is it would give us, one usable side of the dock at the very, very end. Just so this committee knows, we were very, very reasonable in what the addition is. It only spans 2 cribs, right? So we're not going 3, we're not going 4, we're not going, so it's like the minimum that we could potentially add is what we're going for. So it spans 2 cribs. It allows us to dock a boat, it allows us to stop a boat, and it's away from them. So I really hope that you see why it meets the 4 tests of a minor variance, and we're happy to answer questions.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support or opposition to this application? Okay, bring them in. We'll get their name and address, please.
Hello?
Hello?
Okay, my name's Alex Tarzi. We reside next door where the dock is situated 6 inches away.
We need your complete mailing address, please.
Yeah, complete mailing address is 49 Chaplin Crescent, Georgetown, Ontario, L7G 6G1. First I can reply to Cheryl. They wanted to put stuff on our side of the dock, and having it 6 inches away, that would have ended up basically having whatever they put there on our side. And with our runner being there, it is still on our side if you follow the property line. So that's what I have to say for that. Now, in regards to the extension of the dock, they said they want to use 10 feet boards because that's the side the dock boards come in. Now that would mean they have to disassemble 24 feet of the dock. So at that point, you know, they're close to 40% disassembled. Moving it over wouldn't be that much more big of a deal. Now, also saying, you know, giving perspectives from our view when people aren't our view and have to live with this every day, I don't understand. And to us, this is dramatic. It's not minor and insignificant. Now, one more thing that I just want to say. The 4 tests of minor variance, number 3 says, is it desirable for appropriate development of use of land, building, or structure? I don't understand how adding more congestion to an already congested area meets that criteria. And for number 4, you know, it says, is it minor in variance? Well, that's open to interpretation. What is minor to someone is significant to us. So, I mean, that's all we have to say. I mean, that's basically all we have to say regarding this at the moment.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support or against this application?
Brad and Andrea Bosch are in there as well.
Okay, bring them in.
They're already in.
Hello, can you hear me? Are they in?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's Andrea Bott and Brian.
Andrea and Brian, would you like to speak?
Yes, actually, I just have one comment.
Well, first of all, we need your name and mailing address.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Andrea and Brian Bott, 1033 Lakeview Road. We're the neighbors immediately to the west.
And we also need your mailing address, your postal code.
Oh, 158 Stellick Avenue, Newmarket, L3X 1T4.
Okay, thank you.
Just something new just sort of came up today that we weren't aware of before. The widening of the dock. I guess they're saying they want to bring a boat in on the end of that wider piece of dock. Am I understanding that correctly?
I believe so.
So it just kind of occurred to me at the moment that means to bring the boat in on the end, like that sideways, as you know, our waterfront properties are very narrow. So now they want to bring a dock in sideways, which is going to cut across the other properties, like to the left of mine and on the other side, that's our swimming area. And now I guess they're saying they want to be able to bring a boat in across the swimming areas to park it on the end of the dock, that they would only be able to do if they expand the width of that dock. The way the dock is designed now, the way most of them are designed, is with these narrow lots. You bring your boat in directly from out in the lake, directly in straight into your dock, and you don't drive across people's swimming areas. So that was just something that just, I didn't understand that before. I didn't understand the extra width of the dock. Now I understand they want to pull a dock in lengthwise across the top of the dock. And I think that's dangerous. And I'm not going to like boats coming across my swimming area. And I think that was the only comment I had about that. And that actually, that dock is even closer to the other side, the other neighbor, which it'll impact them even more. There's no way you can bring a boat in there without crossing their swimming area. So thank you. That's all my only comment about that.
Okay, anything else?
Not from me.
And that would the agent like to comment on the comments?
Sure. Through you, Mr. Chair, to the whole committee. So basically, what I'm hearing is the neighbors are obviously very concerned with how close this dock is to the side yard lot line in terms of making it larger. I know there's been some speak about whether or not it was to use it for more of an amenity purpose than it is right now. I think you've heard from the applicants what they would like to see that expanded dock as. I don't understand the disassembling and reconstructing comment that I heard. I don't believe the intention is to remove or relocate a part of the dock. I think it strictly is an expansion to the north side of it. In terms of the comments about boating crossing swimming areas, I understand that concern. But the way I see it is if this dock was moved towards the center of the property, and that would be, this is on cribs, so that would mean the removal of the existing cribs and the installation of a new dock on the center of the property. With that expanded width, even if it was at 9.7 or 9.3 feet rather than 10, allowing for a boat to dock itself. I believe the idea was it was a temporary sort of in and out sort of situation when picking up or dropping somebody off on the end of the dock. I don't believe it was meant to be a long-term docking parking situation. I think that would still happen down the side where a dock lift or something would potentially be. But if you to remove this dock so it complied with the 15-foot setback on either side, I don't believe that situation is different than what is being proposed right now. In this sort of congested area, I would like to speak on behalf of the applicants and probably everybody in that area, that anybody who's maneuvering a boat in an area where you have multiple lots at about 50 to 60 feet wide, that they're probably being pretty careful in terms of making sure that there's nobody swimming that they would be hitting. And I don't believe this dock expansion would cause a dangerous situation. I think there's already a diligent sort of situation happening where people are understanding that this could be an unsafe situation. These lots would not be permitted to be built or not to be permitted to be created under today's rules under what the official plan normally requires. So I think all the landowners are trying to do the best they can with the smaller lots on these properties. And that's why you see a lot of these variances being required. This isn't the first property that's asked for variances in this area, and it won't be the last, I'm sure of it. So in terms of circling back, the dock, shifting it to the center of the property to make it comply, I don't really think it changes much about what the neighboring objections realistically are concerned about in this area, but it does create a certain hardship on the landowner in terms of the crib situation. I've dealt with other situations where docks have to be removed or moved when they have cribs, and the DFO has to get involved, MNR gets involved. There's land use permits that are required due to their dismantling and deconstruction of these cribs. Basically, all the applicants are trying to do is expand their dock to basically a width that's more or less what's permitted on the property, and do so in a way that expands as far away from their neighbor as possible and as far out from the water shoreline as possible. And they're dealing with an existing situation. They're just trying to make the best of it. So I think that's that's my comments on basically what I've heard the applicants or sort of the neighbors objecting regarding that docking. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that the committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have one, and that to the agent. What is the width of the dock right now?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe it's 4 feet wide or 5 feet wide. You could probably ask the applicants. They'd probably know more precisely than I would, though.
Okay. Thank you. Could the applicant answer that?
Yeah, the existing dock is 6 feet wide. Can you hear me?
Yes. No, it's very hard. Can you speak up?
Yes, this is Cheryl Barretto. The existing dock is 6 feet wide.
6 feet wide, so you're going an extra 4 feet. So that's what it looks like at the end. And that, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions from the members? Yes.
Through you, Chair, this is a challenging situation because the neighborhood is so unique with such small lots. You know, normally when we we look to the official plan to determine, you know, whether they're meeting we look for the official plan for guidance on trying to pass judgment on this application. It is only 0.7 of a foot, which is a very minor by any other standard. That would be a minor one. What I was going to suggest was that community standards are important in this neighborhood because the lots are so small. And I was wondering what the typical dock is to, say, 5 neighbors to the north and 5 neighbors to the south. I think I've got those directions right. You know, 5 neighbors on the left and 5 neighbors on the right. Is it typical to have 6-foot docks, or is it typical to have 10-foot docks? And that just might help us determine what is a good standard, and wondered if either the applicant or the applicant's advisor could shed light on that.
Thank you.
I think it'll probably be both of us that answer this question. You know, in looking at this property in the winter only, it was hard to tell how wide and what the nature of all the docks are in the area because they're all snow covered. I think some of them probably are likely pole docks that are removed during the winter as well. I can tell from experience that I did work on one of the properties located, I'm going to say about 5 or 6 to the north, maybe a little bit more. They did have a much wider dock with actually a boat port on it as well. And in that time, there was other docks both to the south and north of that property that I worked on that had other similar, I guess, width docks as well. I don't think it's completely uncommon to see a 10-foot dock in this area. I wouldn't say every property has one, but I would say, like, for instance, if you're looking at the existing 6-foot dock, that's typical and wider, I would say. And if maybe perhaps the applicants could shed some more light, being that they, you know, live there on a year-round basis, and they could probably, you know, answer that question better than I could.
Okay, thank you. Member Green. Your sound's not on.
Yeah, sorry, I apologize. Wondering also how many of these wider docks would be at almost a 0 side yard setback?
Hi, this is Cheryl. I can speak to that. There are a few in our area, actually. There's a boathouse that's a few doors down that's almost at the lot line and has a much wider dock. So there's at least about 3 that I know of that are close to or at the lot line in our area. And then to answer the other question, I would say 6 is generally the minimum in our area. There's docks as wide as 10. The one that Mr. Savis was talking about was 19.5 feet on a lot that's 50 foot, right? And so there's a few boathouses, there's a couple of boat ports, there's some fairly wide docks, with 6 being, I would say, the minimum. There might be a 4, so don't hold me to that, but that's generally, hopefully gives you an idea of the neighborhood.
Yes, Member Quinn.
Yes, through the chair to the planning. So as of right, even though this is close to the sideline, they have the right to build up to 9.3 feet of docking on this property today?
Yes, Mr. Sawyer?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, that is correct. Based on their current lot frontage, they are permitted to have a coverage of 15, cumulative width of 15%. And in this instance, that would equate to 9.3 feet.
So the township would issue a permit even though it's closer to the lot line than is required today to do that addition?
Well, I think Bryce wants to jump in there.
Yes. Mr. Sharp?
Through you, Chair Edwards. Thank you. Just to chime in here, just to clarify. Sorry, I just need to catch my train of thought here. So the addition would not be permitted because I don't think they could comply with the required side yard setback. The requirement would be 15 feet. And I think to do any type of addition off the one side where it's proposed, it would be difficult to comply with that requirement. The other thing I can note, if I'm able to screen share here, I can try to screen share a photo of the area, an aerial photo of the area, just showing other docks in the area, if that would be of any value to committee.
Very useful. Thank you.
So where you see the green star, that's the subject property. And these are the other docks in the area. Do note that it's difficult to tell where exactly they are in relation to the lot lines that are shown on this mapping, just because of the digital photography and the overlaying of the parcel fabric, but it does give committee a general idea and understanding of the proposed dock in relation to other docks in the area. Thanks.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to jump in and just say that I think
Thank you. Mr. Sharp, could you also put the other picture that you show with with the dock and the boats there, please? The other boat that's there's a boat on the dock. Excuse me. And then there's one, it looks like it's just anchored out there. Is that your boat or whose boat would that be?
Sorry, Chair, you mean the one that's yellow on the other side?
Sorry, what was that? I couldn't hear you.
By saying whose boat would that be, do you mean the yellow wave runner? Because there's
No, the other one there.
That's a wave runner, it's not a boat.
No. Okay, the wave runner that's out in the water by itself.
The red one is ours, the yellow one is the neighbor's.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Quinn?
Fine.
Okay, can we go back to the full screen, please? Are there any other questions on this? Yes.
I'm tempted to view this as not minor, given the community standards, and not in character with their neighborhood. The aerial view was most useful because it showed almost every dock just was one long thin dock, and most of them looked like they were, plus or minus a foot of the width of the existing dock. And the neighbors are making some very good points. If the applicant does choose to park their boat along the end of the dock, unless it's a 10-foot boat, it's going to stretch over both ends of the dock. So the end, either the bow or the stern of the boat will be crossing the property line when it's tied up. Maybe not if the stern is, if it's an inboard without any outboard engine on it, then perhaps they can keep it within the property line. So I'm tempted to say I'm looking for some way to pass some judgment on, and a community standard I think is one that works for me, and based on that, I would say that this is not minor because it's making it a bigger dock than most docks up and down the nearby shore.
Yes, Member Quinn.
I guess where I see, we keep saying it's 0.07 feet, but really the whole addition would be a variance because they're not allowed to build in that zone at the current setback.
You're right in that you can't build in that zone, and it looks more like a party room out at the end of that dock rather than docking and that. But that's just from what I can see. It's basically 10 by 24. It's 240 feet out there in that. So I don't know what's any other members like to chime in. Yes, Member Green.
For my part, I would be willing to approve the variance on the, so-called shatter garage, provided this dock was actually moved. Because I don't like the fact that it's sitting in the side yard setback. So I would like to hear from one of the planners as to whether we can impose any conditions like the one that the neighbor was asking for. I think it's the bots.
Well, I think what you can do is just turn down the dock, and then they have they can move it if they want, or just leave the existing 6-foot dock there to put their boat. And that, am I right, Mr. Chair?
Through you, Chair Edwards. Yeah, so just remind committee that the focus of the conversation or the discussions that committee's having seems to be focused on the dock. There are some other variances at play here. So certainly if committee is not favorable towards the variance or variances for the dock, those variances can be struck down and the other variance is approved.
Yes, Mr. Bosworth.
I don't have any issue with the rear shed or the wood pile structure. And the neighbors, although they had expressed concerns about this in the first meeting, there have been no expressions of concern about either of those conditions this time. And I do think they are minor, and the physical structure or the land structure behind the shed, you can't move it any farther back. So I would approve those two, support those two. But I don't think we should support the dock.
Okay. What I can do if the committee would like is I can read the resolution. And then if there's anything they would like to remove from it, we can strike it out at that time. Is that favorable? So not a hit. Okay, moved by Member Bosworth, second by Member Green. Be it resolved that application A 4720 amended Davey and Barretto to permit the following development and variances granted. 1, to recognize an as-built wood rack on an undersized lot, waterfront lot. 2, to permit an as-built wood rack 36 feet from the high water mark and 1 feet from the northerly interior side lot line. 3, to permit the addition to an existing dock 6.5 feet from the southerly lot line projection. And 5, to permit a dock to be 10 foot in width. And sorry, that was 4. 5, to recognize an as-built shed on an undersized lot, back lot with no main use. And 6, to permit an as-built shed to be 14 feet from the front lot line, that's the back lot, on Lakeview Road. These variants are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision, is hereby subject to the following conditions. 1, that the site plan agreement be entered into along with securities for planting in the front yard. And 2, that the roof of the as-built wood rack be removed as intended. This approval shall remain in effect 3 years from the date of decision. So there'll be questions and comments, I'm sure. So on that, anyone? Yes,
I think it's number 3 and 4 that refer to the dock and.
that's right. Yes, it's number 3
would-
and number 4.
I would
And that
suggest we
number
strike
3
those.
was, now, anyone else like that strike? That's, yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we're gonna strike out number 3. And number 4. So then number 3, we'll move number 5 to number 3, which would be to recognize an as-built shed on undersized lot, back lot with no main use. And that would be 4 would be to permit an as-built shed to be 14 feet from a front lot line, back lot on Lakeview Road. Is that what everyone wants? Any other questions? Okay, I will call the vote. All those in favor? And that is carried as amended. Thank you very much. And I think right now we'll take a, and reasons.
As asked, I think it's minor in nature.
Yes, and we listened to the neighbors' concern about the dock, and we had not concerns about it being too close to the lot line at this time. Yes, Member Green. Sorry, can't hear you.
Adjusted to make.
Yeah, very helpful photos provided by a neighbor and also aerial photos by the planner.
Yes, it was. Thank you very much. Okay, so I think we'll take a 10-minute comfort break and see you shortly. Thank you. Lisa, I think your mic's on. Well, thank you. We'll now go to A 6420, Elliott and Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 6420 in the name of Elliott and Morrison. The subject property is known municipally as 1116 Woodwinds Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan drawings beginning on page 88 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicants propose to construct and expand a two-story dwelling within the same footprint and over the footprint of an existing covered deck, resulting in an increase in height and ground floor area. Where a legal non-complying deck is set back less than 66 feet from the high water mark, the front yard setback is the existing setback or a minimum of 50 feet, whichever is greater. In this case, the existing dwelling is considered legal non-complying as it has a setback from a high water mark of only 32 feet. The proposed expansion involves a staggered height increase. The part of the dwelling that at its closest point is 32 feet from the lake is to be increased to 29 feet in height. The remainder of the dwelling is to be increased to a height of 35 feet, a portion of which is located less than 50 feet from the lake. As the minimum permitted front yard setback for the dwelling is 50 feet, a variance of 18 feet is requested. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 11 days in advance, and 3 submissions have been received to date. The first submission is by Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official. Mr. Snyder has no Ontario Building Code concerns. The second submission is by the township's public works department, indicating there are no concerns. The third submission is from Robert Chadoff, the owner of the abutting property to the east. The submission reads as follows. My name is Robert Chadoff and I own 1118 Woodwinds Road, which is immediately to the east of the Elliott property and shares a common property line. I looked at the site of the proposed Elliott building, both from the roadside and from the lake. The existing building is only 32 feet from the shore, but is low and inconspicuous. The building proposed would be much higher and very noticeable from the water. By having and applying fair and appropriate setbacks, our bylaws are preserving our beautiful Muskoka shorelines. This proposed high building very close to the water would completely contradict shoreline preservation principles. We cannot change the past regarding building locations close to the water, but we can affect the future by the consistent application of our current fair bylaws. I suggest that the 50-foot front yard setback is appropriate and should be adhered to, and this application should be denied. Thank you, Robert Chadoff. I have prepared a detailed planning report for committee's consideration. Staff have no concerns with the application and no conditions have been recommended. I have no further comment at this time, but would be happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sawyer. And I believe the agent is here and anyone else?
Yeah, and the owner.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Kelly Potter, planner with Planscape, 104 Kimberly Ave, Bracebridge, P1L1Z8. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I am here today with Peter Elliott, the owner of the property. First of all, thank you to staff very much for the report. The purpose of the application before you is to obtain planning approval to replace an existing legal non-complying dwelling with a new dwelling on the exact same footprint and a greater height. We are proposing a second story that would primarily be located beyond the 50-foot setback and wish to construct a peaked living room in the front portion of the dwelling. The purpose of the 2-peaked roof is to create a pleasing aesthetic and to facilitate additional living space beyond the 50-foot setback. The steeper pitch of the new roof will also facilitate winter snow removal, which is a problem with the current dwelling. The existing setback of 32.2 feet is proposed to remain. The proposed height in this portion of the dwelling is proposed to be 29 feet, while the proposed height of the dwelling beyond the 50-foot setback is proposed to be 35 feet. Mr. Elliott has reached out to approximately 20 of his neighbors and received 7 private letters of support. In my opinion, the application meets the 4 tests of a minor variance based on the following criteria. Does it maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan? In reviewing the township's official plan, it can be determined this application does meet the general intent and purpose of the document. The proposed dwelling is in keeping with the character of the surrounding properties, which are all relatively small and highly developed. The dwelling and lot size are both typical for properties located on Woodwinds Road. While as the footprint of the dwelling is legal non-complying, and there is an existing well-established shoreline buffer, it is not expected the dwelling will dominate the shoreline. Official plan policies regarding general development support the compatibility within the character of an area, maintenance of vegetation and the natural environment, and minimizing the dominance of built form. Impacts to the existing vegetation or the shoreline vegetative buffer are not proposed. Lake Muskoka is recognized for its larger built form and building types, and the official plan supports redevelopment opportunities that maintain the character of the waterfront. Policies relating to front yard setbacks also identify the importance of shoreline buffers, minimizing built form, and maintenance of privacy, which this proposal complies with. The majority of the height increase is permitted, and existing vegetation will be maintained and mitigate any privacy concerns. Does the proposal maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? The application requests to reconstruct the dwelling in the existing footprint where the height between 32 and 50-foot setbacks is proposed to increase. Only 447 square feet of the footprint is impacted by the proposed variance. This primarily accounts for main floor living space. The dwelling is proposed to be stepped with a larger increase to the rear of the structure and away from the lake, which complies with the intent of the bylaw. As previously mentioned, the property is well treed with a natural shoreline buffer that is to remain unaffected. Permitting the dwelling to expand in its current location will reduce tree removal elsewhere on the site. As the policies regarding waterfront development aim to minimize dominance of the built form, the vegetative buffer and existing location of the dwelling are relevant. Where the intent of the bylaw is to support appropriate land uses, it is my opinion that this proposal to permit additional height of the dwelling with a legal non-complying front yard setback does maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. Is the proposal desirable for the appropriate development or use of the land, building, or structure? I believe the proposal is desirable and appropriate for the property, as the dwelling is in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. Lake Muskoka is characterized by large development, and the specific peninsula served by this road features predominantly small lots with 2-story dwellings and single-story boathouses. The impact of construction, including tree removal, is reduced by utilizing the same footprint as the existing dwelling, and the intensity of use of the property is not expected to change. The front deck will hide the appearance of the walkout basement, and the proposed roof lines have been stepped to reduce the visual impact of the structure and comply with the spirit of the zoning bylaw. The dwelling will also remain oriented lengthways along the property, which reduces the visual impact. The dwelling does meet the side yard setbacks, and although the shoreline structures are over width, they are low profile and have existed for many decades. The shoreline features mature trees that will remain. No changes proposed to the shoreline buffer. Finally, is it minor? Although there is no precise definition of minor, considering an application's impact is one of the best indications. In this application, the proposed height increase will be located behind a mature shoreline buffer, which mitigates the appearance of the structure. Every effort has been made to keep the dwelling on the existing footprint, which will limit tree removal and site alteration, and keep the dwelling oriented lengthways to the shoreline as opposed to widthways. There is no additional habitable space proposed between the shoreline and the 50-foot setback, with the exception of 25 square feet. Only approximately 2.8% of the lot coverage, or 467 square feet, is impacted by the proposed variance. I would like to, if it's possible, to do some screen sharing after my presentation. We did provide some high quality aerial photos in the planning report. So I'm hoping maybe Bryce can pull those up. They do show the extent of vegetation on the site and illustrate the limited visual impact that the height increase will create. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today. I respectfully request the committee approve the application before them. If there are any questions or concerns, I am very happy to respond and discuss. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this application?
Yeah, the owner's here as well.
Okay. If you'd like to bring them in.
Yeah.
Hello.
Oh, yes, sorry. Now, Kelly, you wanted to screen share, you said? There we go. Okay, thank you for that. And would the owner like to speak?
Oh, hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, hey, I can't get my camera working, but so yeah, I'd just like to thank the committee for looking at my application. We've been there since 2007. We love the area, great neighbors. I think we get along with most of them except for one that objected. So yeah, we've made it every effort to keep the same footprint. And the only reason, the two reasons, I guess, to asking for the higher roof pitch is aesthetics and trying to keep the same look of the building, and also snow load. Right now, we have a 212 pitch, and basically I have to put posts in to keep the snow from pushing the roof in. So that's sort of the other reason why we want to get a higher pitch. But as Kelly said, I think we have lots of trees and ground cover near the shore. I don't think you would actually see the structure any more than what is there now from the water. So thanks for your consideration, and I hope we can pass this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I have to ask, is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this application?
No.
Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application?
No.
Okay, are there questions from the members? Seeing none? Excuse me. Moved by member Bosworth, second by member Creaser. Be it resolved that application A 6420 Elliott M. Morrison to permit the reconstruction and expansion of an existing dwelling 32 feet from the high water mark at the closest point, and shown on a plan attached to the notice of decision, is hereby approved. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Oh, I have a question.
Yes.
Staff had recommended some securities to ensure retention of the trees at the waterfront. I would be curious about the rest of the committee thinks of that idea. We have seen examples sometimes where applicants don't comply with that and start removing stuff. It doesn't start moving trees and vegetation a little bit. So I think that might be a good idea. I could be convinced otherwise.
Anyone else want to comment on that? Yes, Mr. Quinn.
I think it may be a good idea, but I have to commend the applicant for sharing his plans, having a very good planning report. He's been there for a while. He hasn't, he's kept good tree coverage so far. He's been a good steward to the community. But it might not hurt that we keep, maybe put a site plan in just to restrict the tree cutting.
Mr. Sharp, would you like to comment on that, or the planner? Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. Yeah, I can just maybe explain, staff had indicated that the option of a site plan agreement for the retention of trees is a possibility. In this case, staff didn't recommend it, largely because it would appear, based on our site visit and our review of the site plan, that the development is over the existing footprint of existing buildings and structures. And it didn't appear that there was a need to remove any trees. And I would agree with Member Quinn that the applicant seems to be a good land steward. However, site plan agreement for the retention of trees is certainly a possibility, and we can amend committee's resolution to require that if needed. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Quinn.
I'll leave it to the staff. It all looks good to me at this point.
Okay, anyone else like to comment on that? Yes, Member Green.
Yeah, I would go along with Member Bosenworth, just because one of the neighbors has complained, and I think out of respect for him, we should consider imposing that. And there happens to be a property around the corner from me where this didn't happen, and the shoreline was sort of clear cut for a new building. So I know some of the problems that can occur. So I would go along with what Rob is suggesting.
Okay, any other comments?
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't have a problem with the site plan, but if you saw our lot, so the view from the side lot that our neighbor's concerned with is basically we look across the bay, which isn't very far, and really we don't want to see that anyway. So I'm not, hopefully not going to take any trees down unless something catastrophic happens. But
okay, so we'll add that, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Through you, Chair Edwards, I've amended the resolution to state as follows. Be it resolved, application A-64/20 Elliott and Morrison to permit the reconstruction and expansion of an existing dwelling 32 feet from the high water mark at the closest point, as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision, is hereby approved, subject to the following condition. One, that a site plan agreement be entered into along with securities for the retention of vegetation. This agreement shall be registered on title. And I'll just clarify that as far as the securities goes, those securities would be returned following a site inspection by staff of the completed works. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharp. So you've heard the resolution. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried.
variance.
Reasons.
It's minor in nature, a very good planning report.
Very good tree cover to protect the increase in height.
Okay, thank you very much. And the next application is A 6520. That's 2654465 Ontario, Inc.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 65-20 in the name of 2654465 Ontario, Inc. The subject property is known municipally as 9 Lee Valley Drive, Unit 1. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 106 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicant proposes to construct a new boat storage building. The proposed height is 43 feet. The required height is 35 feet. The requested variance is 8 feet. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 11 days in advance and 5 submissions have been received to date. The first submission is by Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official. The Development Services Department has no objection. The second submission is by Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician. The Public Works Department has no objection. The third submission is by Chris Poole from Muskoka Boat Gallery, a neighboring business on Lee Valley Drive. Chris has commented that he has no objections to the proposed development. The fourth submission is by Tom Chambers, the regional sale manager and showroom manager at Chevron Kitchen and Bath, the neighboring business on Lee Valley Drive. Tom has no objections to the increased building height. This fifth submission is by Jason Sift, the Muskoka Lumber from Muskoka Lumber and 106028 Ontario, Inc., a neighboring business of Lee Valley Drive. The submission is as follows. Please take this email as confirmation that Muskoka Lumber and our numbered company 10610028 Ontario, Inc. have no objections to this variance and are in support of the application for more building height. Note we own 99% of the land around 9 Lee Valley Drive, the SWS Marina, in a series of 3 lots. Should you have any questions or concerns, please let me know. Best regards, Jason Sift. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have no objections. Staff have no further comments at this time, and I'm happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Walker. Is the owner or the agent wishing to speak on this? Thank you.
Yeah, the owner and the agent are here.
Good morning, everyone. Jordy Newlands here. My address is 1162 Brackenrig Road, Port Carling, Ontario, P0B1J0. Just would like to thank you guys for taking your time and reviewing our application. We are a long-time marina in Muskoka, and we're looking to build some more boat storage. And hopefully we can get this minor variance passed so we can get this boat storage building in place for the upcoming storage season.
Thank you very much. And you said the agent was here as well, Lauren?
She's there, but she won't unmute.
All right, he won't unmute. Would the agent please unmute and speak to us? I think that's Eric once. Would the agent like to say anything? Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support or opposition to this application? I'm taking that as a no. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? I'll read the motion. Oh, yes, Mr. Bosworth.
Just a quick clarification, section I of the report had some reference to the site-specific bylaw 2015, and it applies that this will go to council afterwards. Am I reading that correctly, or I just need an explanation?
Yes, Mr. Sharp.
Thank you, Chair. There has been a series of past approvals associated with the subject property, and one of those approvals approved a site-specific bylaw that allowed a height increase for buildings up to 35 feet in height. So that is the maximum height requirement for the property today. Concurrently with the minor variance application, the applicant has submitted a site plan agreement application, a commercial site plan agreement application, which will be going to planning committee on Thursday. So the proposed building is subject to that site plan control process. So the applications are coming forward concurrently. Hopefully that helps clarify. Thank you.
It does, thank you.
Okay, I'll read the motion. Moved by member Bosworth, second by member Quinn. Be it resolved that application A 6520, that's 2654465 Ontario Inc., to permit the construction of a boat storage building 43 feet in height, is subject to the, as shown on the plan attached. The notice of this decision is hereby approved. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. And the next application is A 6620 Hogarth. Ms. Walker?
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 66-20 in the name of Hogarth. The subject property is known municipally as 1063 Christie Point Road, Unit 7. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 122 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicant proposes to construct a two-story garage. The proposed garage will result in 10.4% lot coverage on the entire lot and 10.7% lot coverage within 200 feet of the high water mark. The permitted lot coverage is 10%. The variances required are 0.4% and 0.7% respectively. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 11 days in advance, and 3 submissions have been received to date. The first submission is by Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official. The Development Services Department has no comment. The second submission is by Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician. The Public Works Department has no objections. The third submission is by Jean Bessenet, a neighboring property owner to the south. Ms. Besset objects to the proposed variance on the following grounds, which I will summarize for the committee. If you'd like to hear them in full, I'd be more than happy to do that as well later. There has been no time to consult with the owner. The garage that was approved in A-20-20 was 68 feet away from the property line. It's now being moved closer to her property line. Because it is a 2-story structure, including a loft, moving it closer to the lot line will create significant visual impact. The Hogarth lands are part of a deer wintering area, and the garage and driveway proposal and related mature tree clear cut noted in, will result in a lot of mature trees being cut, which will be impacted, will impact her lot and the nature in the area. The two properties have shared a boundary, which is a private treat and natural for over 50 years. The relocation of the garage would dramatically impact the privacy and view of Ms. Bessenet's property and will degrade the relatively untouched, fully treated natural environment that has existed for over 50 years between the two properties. Had the garage been located where it is now proposed to be located, the Ms. Bessenet would have objected to the whole A-20-20 project, as the overall impact of the expanded cottage, expanded dock, and expanded boat presence and new large two-story garage and clear cutting of a large area of trees near the property line would totally be very material and would have a detriment to the natural environment, which has prevailed between the two properties for over 50 years. She says, thank you for the consideration of this objection and the variance request, and has requested that the application be adjourned for at least 1 month to allow for the parties an opportunity to consult and answer questions. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration. The applicant has recently reached out and requested an adjournment in order to discuss the proposal with their neighbor to the south, who has expressed concerns about the proposed location of the garage. Staff are comfortable with deferring this application to allow the applicant to work with their neighbor and address concerns. Staff have no further comments at this time, and I'm happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Walker. We'll go through the motions anyway. Is there anyone here to speak in support of this application?
Yeah, the agent is there.
Okay.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So I'm Eric Muntz. I am the agent acting on behalf of Mr. Hogarth. I am a part of the Daconin group here in Port Carling at 1A Lee Valley Drive, unit number 3. Yeah, we've been in discussion over the past few days with Jean, well, specifically Chris Besant, who my understanding is Jean's son. And they've raised their concerns, and just in that time frame, we've tried to come to a solution. You know, their main concern is their privacy. And just in that time frame, we weren't really able to communicate and come to a solution. And we're more than happy to work with them to come to a solution. So at this time, we agree with Jean and her son to adjourn and take this next week to come to a solution so we can be heard in a month from now.
Okay, thank you very much. And I have to ask, is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support or opposition to this application?
There is a Mr. Basant here.
Okay.
I'll let him in.
I don't know if I'm on. It's Chris Besant,
Yeah, I can hear you.
491 the Kingsway, Etobicoke, M9A 3W5. I'm simply here to confirm what Eric has related concerning the proposal to adjourn, and that we support the adjournment.
Okay, thank you very much. And I have to ask, is there anyone else wishing to speak in support or opposition to this application? Saying none, I'm asking the committee to actually defer this, and it can go back at a later date. Do I have your support? Yes. Good. Okay. So we'll hear you next month. Thank you very much for your time. And did I get reasons on A65 there? No, I didn't think so. And that, it was letters of support from all the neighbors, and it's minor in nature. Thank you. We'll go on to A68, and that's Hennick, and that's Mr. Sawyer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A6820 in the name of Hennick. The subject property is known municipally as 1805 Peninsula Road, Unit 129. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan and drawings beginning on page 140 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicants propose to construct a one-story boathouse on an existing dock. The maximum permitted lot coverage on the entire lot is 10%, which in this case is 7,342 square feet. The proposed lot coverage is 11%, which is 8,077 square feet. As a result, the requested variance is for 735 square feet over what is permitted in order to facilitate the construction of a boathouse. Notice of the public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 11 days in advance, and 2 submissions have been received to date. No submissions from members of the public have been received. The first submission is by Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official. Mr. Snyder has no Ontario Building Code concerns. The second submission is by Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician. He has advised that the township's public works department does not have any concerns either. I've prepared a detailed planning report for committee's consideration, and if committee is considering approval of the application, staff have recommended that the existing site plan agreement that currently applies to the property be amended, and that securities are required to ensure appropriate revegetation after construction. And I have no further comments at this time, but would be happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sawyer. And I believe we have the owner and the agent here. If you could bring them in, Lauren, thank you. Okay, the agent. Margaret, we can't hear you. It shows that your mic is on, but we still can't hear you. Ms. Walton, are you having technical difficulties? Hello, Margaret? Margaret, can you hear me? Margaret, we cannot hear you. It seems like your mic is on. No, it's off now. Ms. Walton, can you put your microphone on? Is your volume shut off? Now you're off.
Try pressing your space bar.
No, your mic is off now, Margaret. If you're on a laptop, it'll be on the bottom, and that to turn your mic on. If it's an iPad, it may be at the top.
Okay.
Oh, gotcha.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank goodness. I'm so sorry. I actually am in Victoria. I had a death in the family, so I'm
Oh,
using
sorry.
someone else's computer. So I do apologize. I have been sitting here since 6 a.m. waiting to hear. So anyway, I'm very sorry. I do apologize for that. So my name is Margaret Walton, and I am the registered professional planner who's representing Barbara Hennick on this application. My address is 104 Kimberly Avenue, Bracebridge, P1L 1Z8. And I would like to thank the staff for the comprehensive report that they did. The application before you is to permit a small boathouse on the existing dock to provide storage for canoes, kayaks, and all of the items that you use at the water's edge, life jackets, swim noodles, etc. This boathouse will be built in place of a previously approved sun shelter, which you will see from the pictures is partially constructed. The boathouse is a relatively modest structure. It will have a width of 35.5 feet, which is 9% of the 390-foot frontage on this lot. The height permitted typically on a one-story boathouse is 16 feet. The proposed height of this structure will be 12.5 feet. The variance is to coverage of 11%, which is contemplated in the official plan. It's my opinion that this is a minor application. The addition of the boathouse at the shoreline is modest and will not have a visual impact. The proposed color for this boathouse is a neutral color that will blend in with the rise in the slope behind it. And there is a buffer in place, the existing tree cover along the shoreline. And Bryce has a picture that he can show you when we finish that was taken recently from the ice to show you the view of the development from the shore, from the lake. So in my opinion, as a professional planner, this is conforms to all of the 4 tests for a minor variance. It conforms to the intent of the official plan, which contemplates 11% coverage in this area. And I will point out that though it's over 11% in the front 200 feet, it is under that if you calculate the entire lot area. With respect to the zoning bylaw, this structure will comply with and actually be less than the required provisions in the zoning bylaw. It's appropriate. It allows storage at the shoreline of all of the items that we tend to gather when we are at the shoreline. My clients have retained the natural buffer along the shoreline. I do understand there was one area that was cleared in violation of one of the site plan conditions, and I have absolutely no problem, and my clients have no problem with that area being revegetated once the construction on this property is completed. So in summary, it's my opinion that it is minor, given the character of Lake Joseph, where there are many large shoreline structures. This is a very modest structure tucked into the shoreline on an existing dock. So I would respectfully request approval, and thank you very much for your attention. And Bryce, maybe if you could show the picture of the boathouse that we took from the ice last week.
Okay, thank you very much.
I sure can. And maybe just to clarify for our committee, I believe Ms. Walton may have misspoke when she had indicated that the maximum height for a single-story boathouse is 16 feet. With 395 feet of lot frontage, it would be 25 feet.
Oh.
I'll go ahead and share the photo.
So where you can actually see some of the existing shoreline, the sun shelter that was started to be constructed, the boathouse will be in that area, and it will extend slightly in the front of where that structure is. So as you can see, it's below the slope behind it, and they have, even in the winter, it's relatively well buffered from the shoreline. And as I said, my clients are more than willing to replace the small area that was cleared at the front. So thank you very much for your time and attention, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bolton. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support or opposition to this application? No? Other questions from the members? Yes, Mr. Bosworth.
This is a fairly significant piece of shoreline. Yet if I'm reading the plans correctly, there are no boat slips in this boathouse. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's a small structure on the dock to put in canoes and kayaks and that sort of thing.
And through you, Mr. Chair, where will the applicant be keeping their boats then?
You may be aware the applicant also owns a property to the south, and they have built a boathouse on that property, and that's where the other boats will go. There's also a boat slip in behind the small structure that's approved the way the dock is built. There's one boat slip in behind. So I guess that boat will be outside. I would also like to add that the Hennigs did approach their neighbors, and their neighbors had no concerns with this proposal.
Okay, yes, follow up.
Follow up on so the front wall, is that a complete rolling wall? Does that wall roll up?
Yes, it will roll up.
And how does that help a storage building?
It's so that you can move things in and out. That's will be the access.
And the part on the back of the building, is that a door or a window?
I'm not sure. I think if I look, let me see.
The same question would be for the ones on the sides.
Well, I think originally there was to be a sun shelter, so portions of it would roll up, so it looks like it's an open area when they're on the dock. And then the storage, the sides can come down and cover the storage.
My concern, committee, through the chair, is that this is fairly large for canoes, kayaks, and chairs, and could become, what is quite common on the lake these days, that this type of space is used for more than storage and boat storage and swimming, which is the intent of our official plan and bylaws. Both say that the only purpose of docks on the first floor is boat storage and swimming. So when I look at the total development, I think it's 7,300 square feet is the building, so it's bouncing off the maximum amount allowed. I'm pleased with the tree coverage. It helps. It's not as significant as in some other places, but we normally approve the extra 1% going to 11 without thought. But in this case, when the structure is already very close to the maximum allowed anywhere, I just was wondering if there are any other thoughts by the committee members about this. This might be a little excessive, and I would like to ensure that it stays as storage space and not a place for, couches and TVs and bars.
Yes, Ms. Walton.
If I may, there is no plumbing in this structure. It's just a structure, and the idea is that they don't wish to drag all of the things up from the shoreline every day. So it's a storage area for that. That's what it's intended to be.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Member Green.
Yeah, I just want to sort of comment generally on the property. I think it's great that within 50 feet of the building, there's some evergreens, but there isn't a whole heck of a lot left after the development of the site. beyond the 200-foot watermark. And I think the planners in the report refer to that. And I think people should be mindful that, when we talk about a vegetated buffer, I think we need trees generally on a property, and a lot of this property is cleared along with the adjacent site. And I agree with Rob that at a certain point, enough, the property is large enough. And I think going from 10 to 10.7 or 11 is perhaps excessive in this particular case.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this? Yes, Mr. Bosworth.
The second point I'd like to point out is to the fact that the applicant has, in violation of their site plan agreement, has removed the natural vegetation, and staff is recommending plantings. I'd be curious to know what kind of vegetation was removed. If it was significant mature trees, then I think the planting should be specified, because plantings can be 3-foot high bushes. If the trees that were, what was removed were significant coverage or contributed to the coverage, I think the planting should be specified that pines or other trees rather than just vegetations.
Yeah,
as
I'm
a
sure
generic.
that it'll be looked after, and it is in the resolution. So what I'll do is I'll read the resolution. And if anybody has any questions or comments after that, we can go for that. Moved by member Quinn, second by member Bosworth. Be it resolved that application A 6820 Hennick to permit the construction of a boathouse, which will result in a lot coverage of 8,077 square feet or 11% within the lot area 200 feet from the high water mark, as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision, is hereby approved, subject to the following condition. 1, that site plan agreement SPA 5818 be amended, along with securities for revegetation. This amended agreement is to be registered on title. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor?
I'd like the plantings to be specified.
Well, the staff look after that, and that that we leave that up to them. Yes, Mr. Quinn. Oh, just okay. So okay, and that. So I read the motion. All those in favor? Okay, and that is carried and opposed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your patience with my technical ineptness.
Oh, that's fine, and sorry for your loss.
Oh, thank you.
And the reasons. Anyone for reasons? It was minor in nature and very good planning report. And I'm just going to take 2 minutes and I'll be right back. And the next application,
Rob and Lisa back down.
okay, here they come. And the next application is A 6920 Elite Tech. That's Mr. Sawyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A6920 in the name of Elite Technologies Incorporated. The subject property is known municipally as 1021 Kidd Street in the community of Torrance. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan and drawings beginning on page 160 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The subject property is currently vacant and the applicants propose to construct a 2-story dwelling. The minimum permitted front yard setback and minimum setback from a public street is 25 feet. As the proposed front yard setback is 15 feet, a 10-foot variance is requested. The minimum permitted rear yard setback and minimum setback from an unopened original road allowance is also 25 feet. As the proposed dwelling would be located 1 foot from the rear lot line and from the abutting unopened road allowance, a variance of 24 feet is requested. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 11 days in advance and 3 submissions have been received to date. The first submission is by Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official. Mr. Snyder has advised that further consideration should be given to the existing site conditions. The site's topography may require that additional fill be imported to facilitate the proposed construction, and the proposed rear yard setback may result in excavation and importing of fill to occur on the unopened road allowance. The second submission is by Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician. The township's public works department has advised that a rear yard setback and setback from an unopened original road allowance of 1 foot is not sufficient, and the department has expressed a concern about a possible inability to undertake all excavation and construction on private property. The third submission is by Noah Fountain, the abutting property owner to the west. The submission reads as follows. Sorry, I just pressed the close on the wrong document here. Please accept this letter of concern resulting in opposition of the minor variance being requested at 1021 Kidd Street. While I will be joining the meeting on Monday via Zoom, I am committed to moderating an International Women's Day event starting at 10:45. May not be able to speak on this matter. I ask that you provide my time to my brother-in-law and neighboring property owners, Peter and Irene Redwood. I reside at 1015 Kidd Street, have lived there my entire life, and I am the immediate neighboring property to 1021. The new driveway here are my concerns as I understand from the drawings. The new driveway from Kidd Street to the garage abuts my property line. It appears to be right up against it. I believe there needs to be a minimum 6-foot setback from an adjacent property line. The drawings show 16 meters from the garage, and thus I assume the driveway will require about half that space. Point number 2, the reduction in setbacks is problematic. From the rear of the building, which appears to be the view of the marshy area, it looks like anyone using the property would be stepping off the deck right onto the unopened road allowance. I see there is also a request for a reduced front setback, bringing the building closer to Kidd Street. That unopened road allowance comprises an area including a small wetland or pond area, and potentially environmental impacts should be considered. Point number 4, my property's septic is on the side where the driveway is being built. Construction began in July 2020. I'm concerned about heavy construction equipment and ongoing traffic using that driveway and whether it may have a negative impact on my septic system. Point number 5, water table issues are chronic on our street. When highway construction occurred, wells on the street went dry. About a decade ago, I had to drill yet another well going down at least 400 feet to access water. I'm concerned about a potential impact of such close by construction. Should there be any issues, hopefully none, what resource would be available to us? Point number 6, the 3-car garage looks to be level and the driveway and angled toward my house. While I am understanding the property is theirs to build on, I am concerned about privacy and particularly lighting that might be directed into my bedroom. I assume this can be corrected and that all lighting on the proposed building will follow strict dark sky guidelines and can be angled down and away from my property. I would also like to understand the planned purpose for this building in a community residential zone. It is extremely large and not in keeping with the traditional character of our community's smaller buildings. As it appears to be owned by a company, neighbors have expressed concern about the potential Airbnb or the overbuilding of the property with an aim for it to be flipped for the highest possible profit. Could we get some clarification on for whom or for what purpose this dwelling is being built? Point number 8. Finally, as this is a dwelling being built on a sand pit with high banks, brings forth questions about stability during and post-construction and the potential need for additional fill. Please know I would be happy to work with our new neighbors and would look forward to speaking with them directly about my concerns. I have no choice but to express opposition as there has been no attempt to contact me by the new property owners, and I cannot find any way to contact them. I absolutely do not want to sour our relationship with a new neighbor and encourage them to reach out to me so we can discuss issues together. Please notify me of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment, and please do not hesitate to contact me should you have any questions. Thank you for your time and consideration. And the 4th submission is from the applicant's agent. To the Committee of Adjustment. This is from Larry Schwalm. It is evident that the majority of objections and concerns tabled in the Committee of Adjustment agenda report against this application all stand in regard to the opposed rear yard setback and its proximity to the undeveloped unopened road allowance abutting the rear of the property in question. It is also extremely evident that the unopened road allowance, its current and planned future uses are clearly not well defined or protected for the following reasons. Number 1, neighbor to the west, 1015 Kidd Street, has constructed a residence which encroaches onto the unopened road allowance. Number 2, neighbor to the west, 1025 Kidd Street, has constructed a new residence which encroaches onto the unopened road allowance and on my client's property. The subject lands here today. Number 3, the town of Muskoka Lakes has previously engaged in a 20-year land lease agreement regarding part of the unopened road allowance with the owners of the property to the east at 1025 Kidd Street. This was approved unanimously without objections to council by the Finance Committee on December 20th, 2020, and approved by council without objections after 3rd reading. If the town's intended future use of the unopened road allowance is for the road allowance for future development, the town would be required to take immediate action and force both homeowners at 1015 and 1025 Kidd Street to move their residences and septic system from their current and existing encroachment on the unopened road allowance and negate or cancel the land use lease agreement currently in effect between the town and the owners of 1025 Kidd Street, and in doing so, provide to the town unencumbered use of the unopened road allowance. We assume that is not likely to happen, so I or we respectfully request that the committee adjourn on this portion of the meeting relating to 1021 Kidd Street and take the necessary time to consult with the township council and other key members in adherence to determine the intended future use of the unopened road allowance and report back to this committee with objections that are both valid and reasonable. As it stands, given the two current encroachment situations on the unopened road allowance, the current unopened road allowance land lease agreement, and the lack of direction from the town regarding the current protection of unopened road allowance lands and future use of unopened road allowance lands, none of the objections tabled in this report by this committee or any of its adherents are valid or reasonable. And so it is our opinion that to pass any sort of resolution at this time would be extremely negligent and reckless. Respectfully submitted, Larry Schwalm. That concludes the submissions. Staff have prepared a detailed planning report for committee's consideration, and staff do have concerns with the variances requested to permit the construction of the proposed dwelling. It appears that the proposal may not be appropriate for the configuration of the existing lot, primarily due to the narrow nature of the existing lot and taking into account that the north or rear property line abuts an unopened road allowance and only a 1 foot setback is proposed. I have no further comments at this time, and I would be happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sawyer. And is the applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this? Okay.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. My name is Larry Swalm. I'm the agent for the owner at 1021 Kidd Street. And my address is 3391 County Road 124, Duntroon, Ontario. And first of all, thank you to the committee and members for allowing me to speak. Very much appreciated. Let me first address the fact that the property in question is owned by my client's business. It has nothing to do with his business. It's to become a residence for him and his wife and his 3 kids. They wish to move to Muskoka to create a life there in Torrance. So just to, that is just in rebuttal to one of the objections. It's to be used as a full-time residence. One of the other notes in question was about the geography of the lot. I have it on good authority that, and it's obvious that people have helped themselves to the aggregate on this lot, including a local golf course. So people have helped themselves for a while and created the landscape that currently exists. And it is, there are some slope stability issues, and we fully intend to hire a geotech to make sure that everything is done properly and is safe and in full respect of the local of the neighbors and the neighboring properties. As I said, most of the concerns are with the setback at the rear of the property. No one's ever built on this lot because I guess everybody's assumed it's just too narrow, and that was the reason for applying for the minor variance, is to see if we could enlarge the building envelope. We're willing to work with the committee on that. But any of the objections that have been regarding the rear setback and how in proximity to the original road allowance really are not, it's not a fair objection, because, you know, we've taken the time to do everything by the books, and some of our neighbors have not. They've built the neighbor to the east, 1025, they had a site plan. They disregarded the site plan, built on the road allowance, and there they sit. And the town since has come into an agreement with them, a land lease agreement. And, we want to do everything by the books, and that's why we're appealing to this committee. In terms of the building looking maybe bigger, it's a 2-story building. Don't let the views from the rear fool you, because we're going to have to import some aggregate and soils. We'll do that according to township guidelines. And but from the street, it's going to have very little visual impact. One objection was about the driveway. We have ample room on either side to put the driveway. As a matter of fact, we have discussions ongoing to possibly share the driveway of that 1025 is using, because it's on our property. That's a possibility. Then it doesn't affect the neighbor at 1015, as she has alluded to. So, and we also feel that the variance application, it does answer the 4 questions legitimately. So at the end of my statement, I'm asking if the town's objections to the rear setbacks are in regard to the original low road allowance, then and it's clear that road allowance is never going to be a road allowance, unless the town incurs some significant expenses in making those people move, then the objections to me at this point in time are not valid. And so that's all I have to say right now. I think I'm here to answer questions if anyone has any.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. And is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support or opposition to this application? To take the ones for support first. Okay, and who do you have in line for objections?
Peter Redwood.
Okay.
Hello?
Hello, go ahead, sir. Your
Yeah,
name,
it's,
address,
it's
and
Peter.
postal code.
It's Peter Redwood. We live in Huntsville at 33 Anthony Court, Huntsville, Ontario, P1H1T2. I'm here to voice opposition to this application, both for our own property, which is a lot across the street from the applicant, and to represent my sister-in-law at the letter you've received. My concern is that the proposed minor variance is not minor in nature. In my opinion, this is a huge variance from what setbacks are intended for. Setbacks are generally put in place to allow friendly atmosphere between neighbors, to allow construction to occur without being on private property or on road allowance. The setback at the back is on unopened road allowance, but I do not believe that the slope of that bank can be constructed without having heavy machinery, etc., on the unopened road allowance. Yes, this is a gravel pit. It's been that way for 50 some years. I've been a member of that street for about 45 of it with our lot. My wife used to live in the house at 1021. The slope stability there today is basically based on the vegetation. When you start to take that away and cut it down, I believe there's going to be problems both with the construction activity and what the long-term effect on the minor variance or on the road allowance would be. They're also applying for a minor variance on the front property. Front property distances are there for a front lot type thing. But 10 feet, I believe it's going to be, is not, or 15 feet, pretty hard to get a front lot. There's also buried utilities in the front of that property that could become a concern during construction. Nowhere in the application have we seen any proposal for septic systems or wells. As mentioned in the letter by my sister-in-law, water access in this table has been a huge problem for many, many years. I can recall summers being there where we've had to actually take water from Lake Muskoka to flush our toilets. The second objection I have is I don't believe the building is in character with what is there today. The village of Torrance is a sleeping area, a small community that supports the bigger area of Bala. The homes on the street are small in nature, are single story, and I've been there for many, many years. To allow a house that appears to be 3,600 square feet in size and viewed from the rear lot, almost looking at a 3-story building, calls in the question with the use of that building. Up until the report previous to what we just heard, we had no idea that it was a family of 3 or 4 going to be used as a summer home. I guess I'm asking the committee to seriously consider this. This is not, in my opinion, a minor variance. It's a major variance. And for that reason, either turn it down or send it back for further discussion amongst the people here today to resolve some of our concerns. I'd be glad to answer any questions on behalf of my family or my sister-in-laws. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes.
There's also an Amber in the waiting room who's raised her hand on Zoom.
Yeah, okay, and that, bring her on. Thank you.
You need to get her full name and address.
Hello, my name is Steve Yeldon. I'm just logged on to my partner's account. We live at 1025 Kit Street, P0C1M0. We aren't necessarily opposed to the overall site plan. We just have some simple concerns. The primary concern, and it's just to rebut Larry there about our property being built on the road allowance. So Amber and I are first-time home buyers. We bought the house just over a year ago in good faith with site plan drawings that were provided to us through the buyer that turned out to be false. So the truth is our driveway is on 1021's property and our well and septic tank are located on the road allowance as well as part of our home. Yeah, so that was unknowing before purchase. Our major concern is before the site plan is permitted is that our boundary issue get dealt with, just in regards to the property that we're encroaching on of his. We have entered into the agreement, license agreement with the town about the road allowance. And that came to light just a few months ago, just due to all the surveying that 1021 had gotten done. So we're paying the price for being on the road allowance now after the fact. And we did not intentionally do that. We're buyers, not builders. So we would just like for the encroachments to be dealt with before anything could proceed. Thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Okay. Are there questions from the members? Do you want this here actually deferred at this time? Mr. Quinn.
You know what, staff have concerns. I would like it deferred. The neighbors, for the most part, seem like a very cordial group. And I can't believe that, you know, the planner and the planning agent and the owner have not gone to these neighbors. They seem to have done a lot of digging and brought up a lot of dirt, but I think that they should have been going to the neighbor and trying to speak to them, get some support and try and work through some of the issues, because, you know, maybe they bought a lot that really wasn't a developable lot. That's it.
Okay. How does everyone else feel? Would you like this and that deferred? Because I can't support a 1 foot allowance. Yes.
Chair, there seems to be a lot of complexities with this case. We've got encroachments on both neighboring properties on the road allowance, plus an encroachment on the existing lot. As Member Quinn has pointed out, staff has concerns, and I would support very much a deferment of this adjournment.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes.
I don't even like the 15-foot front yard setback, because I think on the street itself, most of the places are further back than that. So I really question the configuration of the building itself. And it is on the edge of a cliff, which is a former rock quarry. I'm sure there's lots of engineering issues related to that. And we heard about a wetland at the bottom. I think there's a lot of issues with this, and I agree that at least an adjournment is necessary.
Okay, thank you very much then. It looks like and that we are going to adjourn this and have, yes, just 1 second. Yeah, okay, and that, go ahead just a minute, I'll shut everything down.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. I appreciate the opportunity to just say a few words. I know that staff had indicated that an option that committee may wish to consider was a deferment, and just going forward, if that's the direction that committee is headed, it's always useful for us to have, an idea of where committee would like this application to go, perhaps specific things that they would like us to investigate, or specific changes that would be helpful if we were to bring the application forward at a later date. So I have my pen here, and I'm happy to write any of that stuff down if committee may wish to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. I'll go with Member Quinn and then to Member Creaser.
Well, I think that probably the committees or the staff's concerns maybe to deal with the setbacks. So I think that we want to see setbacks if possible that are minor, not 1 foot, because we don't consider that minor. And I also think that they need to do some major work with the neighbors and make the group as a whole happy, so that it can be an amenable situation, because we're in the country and everybody's your neighbor, and it needs to be worked out ahead of time. And if it comes back in front of me and it's not changed a lot and we don't have staff support, and the neighbors can't work it out, I'm not gonna download my responsibility onto the neighbors. If it's not changed, I will be voting against it.
Thank you very much. And that Member Creaser first.
I would like some more history on the neighbors' encroachments onto the road allowance, how they occurred and how the town deals with it. If we are to suggest that this guy wants to use something like this, he needs to work out with the town the actual agreement before actually asking for a variance. If he was to come back with a land lease that said he actually controlled that part back there, it would be a different application. So I want to see that. Plus I want to see on the site plan, the well and the septic system.
Right, okay, thank you very much. And that, Mr. Bosworth.
Yeah, I support what Member Creaser is saying. I think that we've got both neighboring properties having encroachments on the road allowance. It would, on the surface, seem unfair to not let this applicant have the same sort of access. Those are pretty permanent encroachments. It is a narrow lot and would help him build the building that he wants to build. The front yard setback, I think, needs to be considered as well.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? I'll just say it looks like the building is too large for the lot. We've had this happen in Port Carling, and we turned it down. They were able to build a smaller building on it. Some lots are just not suited for that size of building. And that, and 1 foot, and that, no, you couldn't service it properly. So we'll defer this. The owner can, and that get in touch with the neighbors, get in touch with the town, and maybe get a design that's more suitable for the lot. Okay? Thank you very much. And so that one is deferred. And I think that is it for now. I see there's no correspondence, no unfinished business. Any information items? I will say, have you sent your application in for your membership for OCA? And that I did ask the town, they've asked everybody to send them in themselves. So they used to do that, but now they want you to send them in. So you can do that, please. And then just submit the bill to the township. And there's no new business. And so what I will do, read the last motion. The resolution reads, moved by member Green, second by member Creaser. Be it resolved that the meeting adjourned at 11:52 a.m. All those in favor? Thank you very much. Hopefully you have a good week and the weather turns nice.